Hello, sports fans. Welcome on in. It's the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Of course, we're very proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network and so proud to bring you our show. And thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Always happy to be a part of your day. Going to have a fun show today. Trades happened, blockbuster trades. The college football playoffs first poll came out. Some very, very interesting things on that one. And then, of course, you have the what else do we have? We're going to talk about all that good stuff. So I think we're going to talk about quarterbacks. Go figure. And I don't know anything else that pops into my head between now and then, wherever then is or whenever then is. So sit back, relax. Or not. I mean, you cannot be relaxed and still enjoy the show, by the way. It's not a relaxing thing. Like you could be, I don't know, running a marathon. You could be driving in your car, which is not a fun thing to do on the freeways of Utah. Like I'll just tell you, as I mature in my age, I think I more and more want to take front runner. I think I really do. These roads are nutso. And Utah drivers, a little bit like when I lived in Florida, Miami specifically. Miami, Florida is combat driving. It's like, you want to merge on this freeway? Come on out. We'll merge with you. And like, if you were not aggressive, like they were like, we'll run you off the road. We're not merging with you. So you have to say, oh, no, I am. No. We're going to merge right now. And that was so. Like I said, this show does not have to be relaxing. We can be merging. If you guys want to merge, we'll merge together. But crazy, I don't know if it was crazy. I think it's crazy. So yesterday on the show, talking about the possible scenarios for the University of Utah and their chances of making the college football playoffs. And there are scenarios where they can get into the conference championship game. Now here's the problem. Let's say they got into the conference championship and lost. So then they'd have 3 losses and they're out. So if you get into the conference championship game, you got to win. That's all there is to it. There's no way around it. There's no doubt about it. You have to win if you get in, okay? But it may be, from the standpoint of getting to the college football playoffs, a better scenario if you don't get in to the conference championship. Because the first poll came out, and Utah in the first poll is 13. Like, I don't think a lot of people expected 13. I really don't. Everything showed Utah would probably be, like 17 or they'd be down the, the list a ways. And so it's quite, fortuitous. And it tells me one thing. It actually tells me that people who are really paying attention to college football, and it's not the people in the polls, by the way. And we know this. We know, and I'll tell you why, because Utah has played 2 really, really good games. And they've looked really good the last couple of weeks. And they've actually played for outside of BYU and Texas Tech. They've played really good all year. The problem is not a lot of people saw them. Not a lot of people saw them when they played UCLA. No one saw them when they played Colorado. No one saw them when they played West Virginia. No one saw them when they played Cincinnati. And you look at the Texas Tech game and you go, that game could have gone either way. And Utah was, did a phenomenal job for the most part of shutting down Texas Tech. And just had some really, after things were over, Texas Tech got the ball on a couple of short fields and scored some cheap touchdowns late. But this game into the fourth quarter was a game. And the BYU game is just, everyone, they complain because if you say, well, no, we out statistic you, except for the two that matter, and that's turnovers and some conversions. So you're close, right? And the people who are watching the college football playoff selection committee is going, wait a minute. And they're not only are they saying it with Utah, but they're saying it with the Big 12. Like this was a statement of, okay, and it almost makes me feel better that they're saying this. We're not going to predetermine. We know the SEC has a lot of schools. We know the Big Ten has a lot of schools, but I think they're saying, you know what, the Big Ten is not so big. It's just 10. It's just like give me a high 10. Maybe don't even give me, just shake my hand. We're not even big anymore. And they're not. Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. That's it. That's all that's in the Big Ten. And they said this. They're like, okay. Now, I think there's a little fudge factor on a couple of these. Like Ole Miss is, come on. How long are we going to do this? And how good really is Georgia, and how good really is Alabama? And they're probably still pretty good. I mean, but I think people can kind of compete with them a little bit, and I think people are recognizing that NIL is it's not transferring the power of football; it's just kind of spreading the wealth a little bit. I remember back when I was coaching high school football. And at the time, Alta High School was all the rage. They kind of had it figured out, and we're at this football camp, and they have 185 players on their sophomore JV and varsity. 185 players, and I got my little Springville team here, and we're doing pretty good, but we don't have 100. We don't have 185 players. I might have 30 that can play, varsity football at some time, 30, 35 maybe. And I'm like, why don't you give me your third string guys? And I was shocked. The coach was like, yeah, they just love playing for us. And that's kind of how the SEC has been, 185 guys. And they have just really, like, basically their second teamers are NFL players. You go to practice every day. And I've talked about this in past shows and how, when you go practice against an NFL guy, he's the look team. Your look guy is a future NFL player. That's how you practice at Alabama and Georgia. How can you not get better? Like, if every day you're going up against the best competition you could get in the country. You get a school like Utah, and what Utah gets is we get preferred walk-ons. Guys with a lot of heart. Guys, man, they're giving you everything, but they're not going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. They're going to be a doctor, or they're going to be something else, the best human beings you could imagine, but they're not the best football players. And so you're not going to get the same development, but now it's different. Now those 185 guys that were stockpiled on these teams are now spread out. And really, they're spread out everywhere. It's not like someone, goes and just basically has the market on the talent again. It's not like it shifted from Alabama to somewhere in the Big 12, like Texas Tech. Even though Texas Tech really hit a home run in their strategy with NIL. They did. They didn't get everyone, and they just got enough. They got the right ones. They recognized where it really helped them. And of course, then they had some players, like you normally get that, you augment that with, and it's very similar to Utah. I mean, if you look at NIL, first off, NIL was your two right and left tackles, by the way. You had your quarterback, your running back. The quarterback position, just look at that in and of itself. You have some guys on defense, Smith Snowden, your linebackers, you probably paid them. You paid your DBs something. And I would say Utah's done more with less again in the transfer portal. Ryan Davis. I mean, I can't say, oh, hey, Ryan Davis, man, he's, this kid is, he's in New Mexico. Everyone's going to go out. No. People are going after people in those subdivisions. Like, the thing about Devin Dampier, a lot of people weren't going after Devin Dampier. Okay. No one was, I'll bet. But those are the types of players that make a difference. And so you have your core guys, your guys that have kind of been around, and you augment that a little bit, and then you get them playing right together, and you have a pretty good team. So right now, I think this was brought up. I think every conference is a mess. I don't buy into this whole notion of that some group has the market on all of the talent. It's not that way anymore. It's just not. And it will continue to kind of even itself out. This new money that everyone has. I mean, still you're going, if you're the team, like, let's just say you're a team like Kansas, who got a $300 million endowment. And probably what they did with that $300 million is they probably invest it, and it kicks off some interest every year. And there's your fund money. There's your NIL money. And so it's a perpetual fund. You don't just burn through the fund, and then you pay out for these players. And if so if you do this, you're going to get enough to like have a good team, but you're not going to be able to stockpile everything that goes on. It's not, and I don't know that everyone's going to be able to do this, but you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to pay money if you want. It's a pay for play league now. And so this college football thing to me is fascinating. And I think one of the most fascinating parts about the actual side of this are some of the 2 lost teams. So you have Texas that is a 2 lost team, and they're ranked 11. Of course, after they beat Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt is, look, I know it's great. The quarterback's amazing. Vanderbilt's not it's not a top team. It's not. It shouldn't be considered. And I think there are others very similar to it, okay? So the one team, though, and it's just going to get a pass forever, and I know Martin loves this, is Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame always gets, they just get a pass. But they have 2 losses. So there's a bunch of 2 lost teams. And Texas is one of them. Oklahoma is one of them, by the way, used to be in the Big 12. You have Utah with 2. You have Notre Dame. And they're all kind of right in the mix there. And so the Sooners are 12. Utah is 13. And you have Notre Dame is at 10. And I think what the poll said is, Utah, you're the least recognizable name on this thing, so you're third. You're the 4th team. You're just outside. And this is the first one. Like, if you're a Utah fan, by the way, you should be over the moon. Because somewhere, somehow, the people, like I said, who know football really respect you. They totally do. So let's take these 4 teams that have 2 losses, because I'm not so – I think they want Utah to get in. I think the polls – you have some schools, I want to say was it Boise State last year? They were undefeated, and they just wouldn't let them in. They just wouldn't let them in. There might have been someone else, and they just said no. And it's almost like they kept going backwards with each one of these polls coming out. Now Utah being on a bye week, maybe they pop out of the poll. But here's what's going to happen. If Texas Tech loses to BYU, then Utah could, and I know Texas Tech had beaten BYU or beaten Utah, but they also lost to Arizona State, who Utah handled quite easily. So you could argue, and you might even look and go, right now Utah probably one of the top teams in the conference. So the 8-9 BYU Texas Tech game is interesting because it could be that game that would bump Utah into the polls, into the top 12 without even playing. And there's some other teams, potentially that could lose because, and it's not going to get anyone out of the conversation because you're going to have Texas A&M is going to play somebody in the conference championship, like an Alabama or Georgia or and I don't know who it is. It might be Alabama. Alabama might be in the West or whatever. And Georgia. So it could be Texas A&M and Georgia, right? So one of those two teams, potentially Alabama and Georgia, are going to have two losses. And why this matters is because is there ever a possibility let's say Utah and I'm talking about seeding now. Okay? So if let's just take our little Utah football team here. They win out, they go to the conference championship game and they win it. So they're 11-2 on the year. And they will have now beaten a top 10 team. I mean, they'll have beaten on the year, I think 4 teams that have been ranked, 3 or 4 teams. Because you got Cincinnati, you have Arizona State, you have maybe it's 3 teams. And so now you're up there because you want to be. I don't know that you get to 4, but maybe you get to 6. And 6 means you get a home game. Can you get to a point where you get up in the polls enough to have a home game in that first round? And with 2 losses, and I think with how the schedule is, because these teams still have to play each other. Like Indiana and Ohio State they're gonna play each other, I think, in the conference championship. I mean, I would hope so. And if that's the case, then one of those teams, they drop down just a little bit. And if you're Utah and you're just surging, boom, you're just going up the polls every week, and then you go in and win the conference championship. And then everyone says, hey, look at this Utah team. Well, they're hot, right? And then because it's one thing to get into the playoffs. It's another thing to get a home game. And I think it's huge. I think it's massively huge for Utah to get a home game into the playoffs. And what you're, it'll be interesting to watch how this plays out because you have you have a nice bye, which is beautiful right now because the bye just gives you that last burst to get through these last 3 games. And then you play in the conference championship, and then you have another couple of weeks before you play again. And it's just so much nicer if you can play at home. And then you win that game, and then you go to the next one. And so you could have a conference championship, you could have a first round playoff at home, and then you go to another bowl game, a New Year's Day bowl game. And you're just like, wow, that's a heck of a season. And it's right in front of you. And it's very, very, very possible. So getting back to these teams, I was curious. And maybe Martin, you can weigh in on this one. So Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Um, of those four teams, who do you think is the best?
I'm going to take. I'm going to take Notre Dame. I know I'm the
No,
Notre Dame
tell
fan.
me why.
I'm going to take Notre Dame because Jeremiah Love and Jordarian Price are the best two running back combination in the country. That offensive line to me is one of the top five offensive lines in the country. CJ Carr is up there in QBR with QB stats and all that. The passing game has gotten a lot better. The defense has gotten better as the weeks have gone on. Defensively, pass rushing wise, getting to the quarterback, secondary wise, it's one of the best in the country. I can keep saying that about everything. The only weakness about my team is that I don't have a kicker. If I got into the game that I got into Penn State last year with the current team that I have with the kicking situation, I lose. And that's really the truth about it. Notre Dame is the better team out of those four teams just because I think they're a team that is built for the college football playoffs. Texas, to me, is overrated. Arch Manning has so many bad games this season, under 200 yards. He just looks lost at some points in Steve Sarkisian's offense. Oklahoma, Mateer, the hand injury, the questions: is he actually legit and healthy and all that? Utah to me is a complete team, but I don't think they're a nationally championship built team. I think if you force Utah into a passing game situation, I don't think Dan Peters is the guy to step up and play you out of that type of situation. I saw it at Texas Tech, and when he couldn't run and pass at the same time, the offense kind of died. And I don't think Utah is built to get into shootout games that they were in with Cam Rising. If Cam Rising was a quarterback there, I would say Utah would be the better team, but Dan Peter has his limits, and I think it's with trying to be in a gunslinging type game, and I think you need that type of offense and that type of mentality to go into the playoffs. I think Utah can sneak in, but I don't. I just don't see them as a truly built national championship contending team.
Well, yeah. That's not what I'm asking.
Okay, I
I
went
want
off
to
on something
know
else.
of these four teams, is Utah the 13? I mean, did the
I
polls
would
get it right?
say I would say Utah is. If I had to rank them,
Don't
I'd
don't
say
don't just forget Notre Dame because you're a
yeah.
homer.
I know.
Okay.
I've out of those three, I'm
Is
taking
Utah
Utah.
better than Oklahoma or Texas?
I'm taking Utah. I'll take Utah.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's what I think. I think one of the most disappointing things in all of college football this year has been Arch Manning. I personally expected a lot more. I think it's not like this is his first time in this system. He's been in the system for this is his third year.
Yeah.
And that's and when you've been in the system and you watch the guy ahead of you, usually you step in and you play fairly consistent, and that hasn't happened. And I'm not saying that he's not going to be that player down the road. Just right now, I expected more, and I expected more from. I'm almost as disappointed in Steve Sarkisian. Like I'm like, this is Texas. You pretty much have anything you want at Texas,
Exactly.
and if you can't make Texas unbelievable, then there's got to be something amiss. There just has to be.
On top of
Like
it, he's gotten the Aaron Rodgers experience. He's sat behind Quinn Ewers
yeah.
for 2 years.
think of Nick Saban. Okay, think of Alabama. Alabama is like Texas, and if you get the right person in there, it becomes amazingly unstoppable. When they got Nick Saban, because Alabama wasn't just blowing the socks off of people every year before Nick Saban. Nick Saban was hired because Alabama was not winning.
Right.
Like he wasn't, it wasn't like he but so you get the right guy into the situation, and it should be remarkable. And I'm sure that's part of why all these coaches get fired in the SEC, because they go, we have a gold mine here, and you're digging for pebbles. You're not even digging. You're like, I don't even know what you're doing. But you're certainly not tapping into what we are. And so our patience is thin. Our expectation is massively high, and it should be. And that's kind of how I feel about Texas. And you could almost argue that with Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe not as much. Oklahoma is a hit and miss place, but Texas, no, it should be so much better than what it is. I I just am very happy with where Utah is. I'm very happy about who's ahead of them. And there's going to be, look, we all know that there's a massive shakeup. I don't think this thing ever ends up. It's never ended up like its first iteration,
Let
but
me
it's certainly a good spot. And I'll just tell you the thing that I'm so happy about is I really feel like there's always going to be debates about placement, but I think college football actually got this poll right.
let me ask you this, Scott. Let's say the worst comes to worst. Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma lose somehow in the last few weeks here in the season, and Utah makes it to 10, and BYU is still at 7. Rematch back down in Provo. How much closer could this game get in a rematch down in Provo? Because it was already 24-21.
I think BYU played absolutely as good as they possibly could have played against Utah, and I think Utah played below average. If Utah just plays like they play typically, if Utah plays a good football game, they beat BYU. I just think they do. I think they're better. But if they don't, then they won't, because BYU will be. You're going to get a consistently good performance out of BYU. Is what you're getting right now. Now this Bachmeyer, he could mature and grow into next year and be like a lights out guy, and it's like they could be scary in a year potentially, but not right now. So, but as I look through this thing, because I'm trying to figure out a scenario how Utah can get into the conference championship game. And really, the focus should be maybe we should look at how can Utah get into the college football playoffs, and it may not be going the conference championship route. And the reason is the ACC is a train wreck. There's no respect for a. They don't even have anyone in the top. I guess 14. I think is Virginia, and they'll get in because they just get in. Right? They're going to get a. They're going to get. But if Virginia loses, it'll be really ugly for the ACC. Like they're not in a great position right now, and so they'll get one team, and all that means is I think the Big 12 has more respect. The problem with the Big 12 is all the good teams played each other this year. That's really the problem, and that's why you get some of these Vanderbilts, or you get the Old Misses, or you get some of these schools that slide in because they didn't play anyone all year, so they can have these inflated schedules and they all look good, and the losses don't hurt them. But there is some respect for the Big 12, and the better route might be for Utah not to get to the conference championship game, which I can't believe I'm saying. But it's a reality at this point. All right, let's take a break. We come back. Crazy trades in the NFL. I mean, these are trades that haven't happened in 30 years in the NFL. So some big news, big time trades happening. We'll talk about that and so much more when the Down and Dirty returns here on ESPN 700 921 FM.
Nice job. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. We could have talked about it for the whole hour. Gosh dang it. We need a longer show. We need 3 hours here.
You know, I think trades are weird. And I was just thinking about trades, the NFL trade, to trade deadline. We got to get everything done before the deadline. And of course, nothing happens until the deadline, right? So it's just silly. And maybe it's a way of it's always about negotiation. Like they go, yeah, they dangle a carrot out there. Hey, we'll give you this player, but you got to give us 2 first-round draft picks. And they're like, you're nuts. And they go, okay, fine. So they sit and they wait, and they get closer to the deadline. His team goes, man, all we need is a cornerback. If we have a cornerback, we're going to the freaking Super Bowl. Do it. I don't care. I don't care what it takes. Get it done. Right? And that's what the owner says I want a Super Bowl. Because winning a Super Bowl in the NFL, it's all about ego. You just want to win. Like it's because you've already won. Just so you know, you've already won. If you have a team, you win. And you get people that probably don't really care about football, but they go, I care about a return on my investment. So I'm going to spend $1 billion. No, I'm going to spend I'm going to spend 6, maybe $10 billion because I know I'll get 20 at some point. Like it's just insane. It's insane. So winning a Super Bowl, this is like whatever. Oh, you mean I can win a Super Bowl if I have this team? I didn't even know that. I just wanted billions of dollars. That's what I was interested in. And not only did I want billions of dollars, I want to now become the front page news. And that's really what it's just ego. If you own a bunch of oil wells, or if you're the Walton family, no one know. I don't know who the Walton family is. I guess their last name's Walton. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their personality is. I don't know what they look like. I do now, only because they own the Denver Broncos. Like who knew Paul Allen? I mean, you might have maybe a little bit because, Microsoft is kind of out there and whatever. Most people don't know. Did you know Mark Cuban? Like Mark Cuban's story? No. And Mark Cuban goes, wait a minute. So trading players is like, it's just feeding your ego and just going, yeah, let's do this. Now, I think it's, to me, fascinating, like the Jets, right? So the Jets get rid of their best defensive players, Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, and one goes to Colts, one goes, and they get unbelievable returns on these players, and these aren't like, and it's kind of funny. So if you read kind of the tea leaves, it's like, well, Sauce Gardner, his production's kind of dropped just a little bit. Quinnen Williams, his production's kind of dropped just a little bit. And I look at this and go, what are these players, just all of a sudden bad players? It's fascinating to me how people don't really look into, like, you don't just all of a sudden become bad. But look into, there's a new coach. There's a new kind of mantra. Maybe the scheme doesn't quite fit the player the same way. That I'm so much about scheme, and on both sides of the ball, offense and defensively, about scheme. But there's also another side to this, and the side is about kind of how are you feeling? I know this sounds bad, but how are you feeling emotionally? And I'm going to go back to Charles Haley. Charles Haley was the epitome of the type of defensive player that would make me nervous, because he's kind of half baked. He's out there, and you don't know what he's thinking. And that kind of player wants to like hurt you and wants to make your life miserable and doesn't really care. And those are the defensive ends, that are like Reggie White. And he was really good, but he was a minister, right? And you can't sit here and go, oh, uh, like they're normal people. So Charles Haley was feeling like disenfranchised with the 49ers. And his behavior became insanely crazy. I mean, it was bad. And they just said, we don't want this guy around. Like, he doesn't fit the 49er culture, whatever that is. And the Cowboys said, we'll take him. We love a hot mess. And they made, and it was the most insane thing to ever happen. They traded their very best defensive player to their arch nemesis and the team that was keeping them from the Super Bowl. And all they had to do was just give Charles Haley a hug. That was it. Just say, you know what, we're happy you're here. If you just need a hug, we can give you a hug. That's all he needed. And it was a huge, huge deal. If I'd have known this, man, I'd be going around to these players myself and go, I'll give you a hug. I mean, that's all it takes. Just feel. I'll give you a hug and I'll feed you dinner every night. I mean, if you want to feel like needed or valued, whatever. And so, so you, because why in the world would you want to give up a good player? Like here, I look at the Jets and they're just, and everyone goes, oh, the Jets have won this. The Jets have won this trade. It's amazing what they've done. Really? It's like, because here's all I think about with the Jets. It's just more reason to dig a deeper hole than they already are in. Because now they have no excuse. Like zero excuse. Like the Jets should position themselves to be, and you kind of thought, I mean, these were great players that they picked up, and you go, wow, Sauce Gardner, great pick. Quinnen Williams, what a force inside. Garrett, and you looked at what the Jets were doing, and you almost were like, I don't know that you were saying, oh, the Jets are doing it wrong. I mean, these are good players. The problem is the quarterback position, they just haven't figured out. And that's a hard one. But, so now it's just in stripped down rebuild mode. And, let's kind of see where we go with things. And I think it makes it worse for the Jets. Now with the Colts, I think it says something. I think again, you have a new owner, and these aren't the Walton owners. These are we sit on the sideline and take note owners. Like they are immersed in this. They are 100. I would venture to say, and this is just strictly just my opinion, within the next couple of years, the Indianapolis Colts win a Super Bowl. And it just feels like these Irsay girls who are running the team now, they have their stuff together. And they're making moves, and they're making those moves are making inroads. And I think they went around and they did their homework. And I think they said Daniel Jones is not a bust. Daniel Jones in the right circumstance. I mean, Daniel Jones was with Saquon Barkley before, and they go, we got this, Jonathan Taylor here, who's pretty freaking good too. And the cupboards aren't bare, and let's bring this guy in. And if he shows something, we've won significantly. And if he doesn't, then, oh well. But it feels like the Colts are doing all of the things that the Jets should be doing or are trying to do, but aren't. And here's where the challenge is. You know, these draft picks are out. You know, the Jets are going to have a good draft pick on their own without anyone else's help. But now they're going to have a lot of them, and all it just makes me super nervous with what's happening now. I think about a guy like Sauce Gardner or Quinnen Williams, you know, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how would I feel if I got traded in the middle of a season? Like, I mean, especially if you're on the Jets. And I think I mean, oh my goodness. I think of I think I would have died and gone to heaven. And I think it's one of those places, you know, it might take a minute or two, but these guys can have a significant impact on their team relatively quick. You know, in other positions like the quarterback positions, which, you know, I'm trying to think. Has there ever been a quarterback trade in the? Now I know. I guess Joe Flacco, right? They traded Joe Flacco, but that's kind of different a little bit. So I don't know. But as far as quarterbacks being traded, I think it had a little bit of an impact on the Bengals. You know, because they were in a hot mess with their quarterbacks before the trade. All I know is Sauce Gardner, and so probably play better. Probably, you know, he has a renewed vigor, and then it just makes it worse for the Jets. So everyone seems to think the Jets won. I'm not so sure they did. Let's take a break. We come back. You know what? When we come back, I'm just going to make it up. I'll just, uh, you know what? If you have a chance, text in something you'd want to have a conversation about. Uh, um, so text in the text line. What's the text line again?
877-353-0700.
Exactly. 877-353-0700. Text in if there's something you would like to talk about on the show. This is Down Dirty with Scott Mitchell here on ESPN 791 FM.
All right, your first one is: do we think we'll lose JJ and Bray in the offseason due to NIL? Yeah. Other one, we got 11 minutes. Next one is: why don't the Miami Dolphins bench Tua and start Quinn Ewers? Say that again. Second show. Last one is: do we keep Bird and let Dampier go? Yeah, I put it back in here, but those are some of the three options.
Well, I'll tell you the way, and I'll tell you where we're going. We're going to the playoffs, baby. Oh boy. So fascinating, all these trades and this playoffs. I don't know. I was pretty shocked by the trades in the NFL, but I was pretty excited about the first poll. The only one that really matters is the last one, but it's just it's about positioning. Get in the right position. So I had something I was going to talk about, but I just thought, I'm going to call an audible here. Curious what folks out there, if they had any questions. Any questions? Anyone? Any questions? Just please, text in. And we got some responses. And fascinating enough, they're all Utah questions, and they're great questions. Well, one's actually a Miami Dolphin question, but
Got a Broncos question too.
uh,
They're asking
want
if the Broncos are legit or is this just a fun season?
to go for a ride in my Bronco? Here's the thing. Let's start with that one. One of the hardest things I think it is for a young quarterback to learn how to do, and that's to win. You can kind of go up and down the field and get some nice stats going, especially in today's NFL. But when the rubber really hits the road is at the end of a game. And can you find ways to make some big time wins? And the answer is yes for the Broncos. And Sean Payton's system is amazing, but it's demanding, it's tough, and probably really tough on a young player. But Bo Nix has shown an ability to win some games, and he did it his rookie year, and he's shown it again this year. They're really in a division that's very winnable. There's no one that's just really kind of blown anyone out of the water. Certainly, there's a strong possibility of making the playoffs, and part of kind of having that savvy to get to the playoffs is learning how to win and win those tough close games. I mean, they've had some pretty significant wins that way, and all that does is just builds like fortitude and confidence, and you just know that you can, and quite frankly, a lot of times you have to. I mean, that's just how the NFL is. It's just so close and so back and forth. So I don't know that a fun year. I think this is a good year for um for the Broncos. I'm just thinking in my head here, who's the team in the AFC? Like, who is the one you go, oh man, I don't know that we can beat them.
Buffalo,
Is it Buffalo? I mean, that they've kind of had their ups and downs a little bit.
New
Uh,
England, they've
the
shown some life.
scary, yeah, the scary team to me, New England's playing better, but the scary team to me is the Ravens.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I think the Ravens will make the playoffs, and I'm just saying, but they have, who is that team that's just really really stood out in the AFC? Kansas City's, they're fighting through things. So there's a lot of teams I think will be close. I think all those teams, and I don't see any reason why the Broncos aren't one of them.
What about the Colts? Real quick, Indy.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's another. It's kind of up in the air. In the past, you're going to have to go through Kansas City, and I don't know that. Yeah, I think Kansas City will be there, but I don't necessarily think it's going to go through Kansas City. It could go through. It could go through the Colts. I mean, but Denver's certainly right in the mix of it. I'm a big Bo Nix fan. Love Bo Nix.
All right. The other NFL question was: do the Miami Dolphins just want to bench Tua and start Quinn Ewers?
I don't know that Quinn Ewers is the ultimate, answer in Miami. You come to a point and you start seeing, like, the outward expression, off the field stuff, like in interviews with Tua, that are things you just don't normally talk about. You don't normally say, and you get a sense that he's getting a sense like his time, is kind of up there. It's tough because they really, I thought, positioned themselves to to be a contender, and I don't know why they're not. I mean, it's just been a pretty disappointing failure across, and I think part of it has been, his ability to kind of get to that next level. He got to the level of I got paid, and now are you getting to a level where you're competing to go to the Super Bowl and really be competitive in the playoffs? And they're just not there. And I don't think he is either. And so it might be time to move on, but man, it's so hard to move on and that's the dilemma you have in the NFL, because there just aren't enough guys to move on to. And trying to find a guy, the Dolphins have been trying to find a guy in Miami since Dan Marino, and maybe it won't happen. I don't know. The one that's interesting to me, though, the question I want to talk about is the Bird Ficklin. What really it's a little bit of who do you keep next year if you're Utah? And I was of the opinion that you have you don't have two quarterbacks. And I was of the opinion that I think Bird has a much higher upside in his traditional way of throwing the football, like in the pocket, on time, on rhythm. It just feels to me that he's better at that. And I don't even think it's a feel thing. It's apparent that he's better than that. But the way Utah runs its offense, and they're really good about going, this is who we are, this is what we have, and so we're going to get our production any way we possibly can. And I love the idea now of, based on the way this offense is designed, to have two quarterbacks and to have them in the game at the same time, because it's all about playmakers. Like, put your playmakers on the field. And if you're a team that's like evaluating, who do we keep? And it's like, I keep all my playmakers. So I'm keeping Bird Ficklin. I'm keeping Dampier. I'm keeping Daniel Bray. I'm keeping JJ Buchanan. Like, JJ Buchanan, in my opinion, is not even closely utilized as much as he should be. Like, they got to figure a way to get him even more involved than he is. He's a problem for teams. He's a problem because he's a mismatch problem. And he's massively talented. He's got great size. He can run really well, catches the ball amazingly. And he's a true freshman. I mean, you have to, on offense, keep all your true freshmen you have in Bray, Bird, and Buchanan. The three Bs. It's the killer Bs. Utah has now developed the killer B offense, and you totally have to keep those guys. And what it's going to be a challenge, though, because it's a challenge. And it's a challenge because NIL is a challenge. NIL is dirty pool, just so you know, and dirty in this regard. Teams can inflate an offer to a player to get another team to spend more to keep that guy around. And so you really have to say, man, we really love this guy. Like, we cannot live without this. Like, this guy has to be a part of who we are. And you may have someone that just looms out there that just goes, you know what, we love what you do at Utah. We love that you develop these players. You're really good at it. And we're just going to take a lot of your younger talent, which is what I think happened last year. And I think people overpaid for the talent that Utah had a year ago. I mean, I think some of the challenge is going to be these defensive backs on defense. So that's the challenge there. And but this team has still got a lot of talent. I mean, they should be in the mix of things next year for sure. Maybe even more so with the quarterbacks being even a little bit more savvy. Now that they're going to lose their whole entire offensive line, the backups are good, and they've got some good guys coming in. But it's just going to be, you're not going to have the same experienced offensive line. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because you've got these very talented people in the backfield, they can make people miss and they can do a lot of things. But yeah, I keep the guys. I keep the guys that can make plays, and I don't care where it is. And I really think they should do more with this two quarterback thing in the future. It could be really fun. It
Uh,
could be so innovative. It'd just be amazing.
all right, Scott. One more question. Let's go down a
Okay.
little bit here of memory lane. When you were
Oh,
benched for Charlie
no, we're
Batch.
not going to do that.
Okay.
Not going to do that.
All right.
Maybe another day, Martin.
All right.
Nice try though.
Hey, it was not me. It was a fan. Okay.
What was the question?
When you got benched for Charlie Batch, was that the reason why Barry said he was done?
Oh, no. I don't think it was that per se. I think it was just that the Lions did a lot of things like that. They had really good players there and for whatever reason they couldn't identify and couldn't keep they didn't really know who they were and what they wanted to be and yeah, again it goes back to chemistry, getting really good guys in the locker room and stuff like that. But that's actually a pretty good question. That's fair. Um Yeah. So
All right, we gotta go.
it's not just about a player. It's about how the chemistry of all those players together, and it's a real thing, and it's something you have to factor in when you're building a team. All right, we'll go get in our laboratory and come up with more chemistry. But for now, we have to go. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. He's coming up next. This has been the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Until then, we'll see you then.
All right, Scott. I'll connect with you in the other studio.